Hello. Well, the Portland startup news cycle has started the new year on a tear. Happy New Year, by the way, in case I haven't had the chance to say it to you yet. Happy New Year. It's good to have you here. The news this week was a lot. Like I've got a lot of things to cover. I want to get through them quickly. There's some big news stories like an acquisition that happened, which is kind of near and dear to my heart. There's some sold out events that have occurred. One took a little while. The other one happened basically like that. New leaders at the Latino Founders Accelerator, all kinds of things to cover. No context whatsoever, unless you look at the links in the video. But April 8th, save the date. So let's get into it. No time to waste. Want to make sure you know what's going on and you're all up to date on what's happening in the Portland startup community. First and foremost, the big news this week, Lytics, a long-time Portland startup. I believe they started in 2013-ish. I say that offhandedly because we were lucky to have them in the second class of Pi. So full disclosure, I am the co-founder and general manager of Pi. Lytics is a Pi alum. They were just acquired by an Austin, Texas company called Content Stack. There isn't a great deal of detail about the deal. Kind of the terms of the deal were not disclosed, but it is a mix of stock and money, cash for folks. Eric Benson, our friend at Voyager Capital, said that it was a very good exit for the investors. So that's promising. It's always nice to see a successful exit for a Portland startup, and to see that people get kind of a soft landing. So the Lytics employees will all join the Content Stack group and be helping them with what they had, the space that Lytics had established as a front runner, the customer data platform space. So really lending not only a lot of credibility, but also some really interesting technology to Content Stack. Congratulations to all the folks at Lytics. And of course, the founders, James McDermott and Aaron Radden. Happy to see you get a liquidity event out of all that hard work you put into that startup, and cannot wait to see what you do in this next chapter of your career. Was one of your New Year's resolutions wanting to get more involved in the Portland startup community? What a coincidence! One of my New Year's resolutions was sharing all the news in the Portland startup community week to week. Let's be resolution buddies. All you need to do is subscribe. You want the news? I'll give you the news, and we'll both win in 2025. Okay, sometimes the startup community is about things ending. Sometimes the startup community, more often than not, is about things starting. And the thing that started, well, it started this year. I didn't cover it till this week. I'm a little late. I was giving folks time to get back to work before I started talking about it. But I think the post was dated January 3rd, so I'm not terribly late. But our friends at Graze, Graze.social, which you may remember as the company that was experimenting with tooling for Bluesky. That Bluesky is so hot right now. They were working on elements that would make Bluesky more functional for corporate company algorithmic, like curated algorithmic stuff. Like they basically make it really easy for anyone to develop a curated feed of what they want to see. The beauty of Bluesky feeds is that you can share them with anyone. So like you can create a feed and then you can tell your friends to add this feed to their Bluesky, and then they'll get the feed of that content. And then of course, with that kind of vantage point purview, the other thing that becomes interesting is Graze can allow people to place kind of paid promotions within that feed. So again, better control of the algorithm. You're not relying on like a massive corporation to deal with the algorithm and control what you see. You get to pick and choose which algorithms you tune into. You can fine tune your own algorithm to make it valuable to you. And then there's this opportunity for advertisers to engage with those feeds that they find valuable or relevant to what they are doing and what they want to promote. So all super interesting, nothing that Bluesky has been building on their own, but something that Devin Gaffney and Pete Bakke kind of happened upon as an opportunity, and they're pursuing it to figure out how that might work. The fun fact, this is all great, but the other fun fact is if you go to your history books 20 years from now and say, who was the first company to buy an advertisement on Bluesky, that would in fact be Portland startup FanWagon. So FanWagon partnered with the Graze folks to place an ad on the San Francisco Giants feed that basically talked about FanWagon. Because if you don't know FanWagon, they are basically secondhand fan wear. So you bought a jersey for your kid, maybe your kid outgrew it, it's still in good shape, but you want some other kid to have it, you bring it to FanWagon, and they're the kind of like secondary market for that kind of thing. Or maybe, you got a timber scarf and you're like, I don't really like it as much as I would like to, but I'm sure some other Timbers fan would like it. So put it on the secondary market, resell it, prevent it from going into a landfill. That's what FanWagon does. But I digress. So Graze is officially out there. If this sounds interesting to you, if you're like, oh, I really wanted to build feeds, but I'm not a developer and it was really hard before, Graze makes it easy. Like even I could build feeds if I wanted to. That's how easy it is. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, check out graze.social. And if you are an advertiser or potential advertiser who would like to figure out ways to engage the Bluesky community in a really meaningful way, you should check out Graze as well. So really nice to have that out in the open. Can't wait to see where they go from here. They've been moving really, really fast. They've been keeping pace with kind of the crazy Bluesky momentum. And so it's just really nice to see a Portland company kind of at the cutting edge, kind of in the groundswell of some really interesting technology and social momentum. So congratulations to Graze for getting out of the gates, even though they were kind of outed by the CEO of Bluesky a few weeks back. They're now official. They've put it out there that this is what they're working on, and they would love to engage with you to figure out how you can collaborate with Graze. Another random fact, again, kind of back to the Lytics stuff, where, I used to run a startup accelerator called Pi. And Lytics went through that accelerator. Both Pete Bakke and Devin Gaffney of Graze are also alums of the Pi, the startup accelerator I ran. And I always love to see new people pursuing the accelerator model, seeing how they make it work, seeing how their community adapts and engages with a startup accelerator format. And that's why I'm really happy to announce that our friends at Latino Founders have hired an accelerator manager to help basically activate the space and program and perform that acceleration for startups. Her name is Zimri Rodriguez. She is coming from Chicago to be part of Latino Founders. I think it'll be really valuable to have that outside perspective on what's happening in Portland, but also just really valuable to have yet another accelerator program focused on startups in Portland, specifically focused on the Latino founder experience and bringing people to bear who have that lived experience to share with those Latino founders. I'm super excited to see what happens with the accelerator. And again, like super excited that I'm not doing the Startup Accelerator, but always happy to see other people pursuing that format. I totally believe in that format and think it has a lot of value, not only as a means of pushing businesses forward, but as I would always say with Pi is a community management organizing platform disguised as a startup accelerator. So I think the other fringe benefit of working in a startup accelerator format like Latino Founders is going to do is that it's really going to have a distinct effect on the community. And I cannot wait to see what happens there. So congratulations to Zimri on the new role. We're happy to have you here in Portland and look forward to collaborating with you. And of course, congratulations to Latino Founders on making a solid hire for a very, very important program. Sometimes where you're like, I think this is a really good idea. I can't wait to see what happens here. And then they kind of reveal that idea, and then suddenly, boom, like sold out, no more available, all done. Now we just have to sit around and wait for it actually to happen. That's what's happened with Pitch Black Food. So if you're not familiar with Pitch Black, created by Stephen Green, who has done any number of things in the community. He's currently the head of Better Portland. He's the founder of Vanport Studio, but does all sorts of things that are hugely valuable to our community here. Stephen started Pitch Black, had Black founders get up and pitch, and then he's like, well, we can do a reverse pitch, and had like investors talk to the Black community about what they had to offer, and then kind of went back to startups and how they could pitch and that kind of thing, and on and on and on. And then there was the pandemic, and that was a little hiccup. But Stephen, went to other cities with the program, kind of test drove it in a variety of ways. I know he was thinking again post-pandemic about maybe doing more like widespread Pitch Black activity throughout the United States. But I really like this kind of like pivot he's taken for February, which is obviously Black History Month. But he, instead of doing the full-fledged Pitch Black, which won't come until later in the year, I think it's slated for August this year. So the more traditional Pitch Black will take place later in the year. But he's testing a new format with the community. In February, it's Pitch Black Food. And if the community is to be believed by the fact that it's sold out in less than 24 hours, I think he may be on to something here. So Pitch Black Food feels kind of like one of those like, Food Network, food competition kind of things. People do a kind of beverages. They'll do an hors d'oeuvre, main course, dessert. They'll get to talk about why they decided to prepare that particular dish and what it means to them and why it's important. And then, of course, as always, the crowd will get to vote. They'll get to decide who they like the best. Everybody gets money. That's what I love this about Pitch Black, Pitch Latino. Again, I say it time and time again, but like we need to stop the kind of like founder as entertainment kind of vibe where founders waste a lot of time preparing for something and put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for some competition only to get up on stage, pitch their heart out, and then get absolutely zilch for doing that. Like, what I appreciate so much about Pitch Black, Pitch Latino is every single person who participates receives money. And that is so, so important for startup founders. And I respect that these organizations are able to do that. I respect the amount of capital that they're always able to give to founders. Like, to me, that is what is most compelling about each of these competitions is it's not just, getting you out there and kind of getting you in front of people to tell your story, but it's also ensuring you have the capital you need to continue building your business. So Pitch Black Food, no different. Sorry, you won't be able to attend, but if you are a chef who would still like to compete, I believe there's still openings for you to submit. And then you'll go in front of a panel and they will select the folks who are going to cook or be mixing drinks or whatever at the event. And then again, I will report out on who won and what dishes won and what people seem to like. But like, this is one of those that I think we could do on a regular basis. And I think much like Pitch Black inspired Pitch Latino, I think, this Pitch Black food may inspire some other interesting things. So stay tuned. Super excited about it. Clearly, the community is super excited about it just based on ticket sales. And I will keep you posted on who wins that competition. Speaking of selling out and bad segues, that I've just been hammering you with the 2025 kickoff for the Portland startup community. I apologize. I'm just super excited about it. There are all kinds of great organizations who are collaborating to kind of throw together this just really mellow, kind of low-key kickoff for the Portland startup community. And, I've been behind the scenes trying to help navigate and organize on logistics and those kind of things. And we started out in one spot and I was like, oh, we can totally host it here. And then suddenly we were like, oh, we have way more people than will fit in that space. So I chased down another space and then we outgrew that space. And then we finally found a space that I thought would be big enough, but lo and behold, we've hit capacity. We have a wait list, and even that venue is basically oversold now. And that, thank you. Just congratulations to you, Portland startup community, that we have that much momentum, that we have hundreds and hundreds of people who are eager to meet one another, eager to engage with the community, eager to engage with the organizations that support startups. It's just it's just a really great way to kick off the 2025. And I'm really humbled to be part of this group that is throwing this whole thing together. So that's going to happen next week. I will report out on it because this is the thing I want you to know. I am going to basically do people don't necessarily like the term post-mortem anymore, but a retrospective. I'm gonna do a retrospective on the event, just to give you this was how much time it took to plan. These are how many organizations were involved. This is how much money it took to pull this thing off. And of course, most importantly, if you know me and RSVPs, this is how many people said they were going to show up versus this is how many people actually showed up. So all of that, stay tuned. By the time we get to this little segment next week, I'll be able to at least give you the raw numbers on what was happening and what we saw and what, all the things. So why am I doing that? Why do you care? Well, two reasons. One, I want anyone in the community, be they an existing organization or somebody who's been considering activating the community, to have that information to understand what it might take in terms of capital and time spent to put something like this together, so it's less of a black box, less of a kind of scary unknown thing, and they have the detail. They're like, this is the nut we need to cover to make this whole thing happen. So that's one part of it, is enabling more people in the community to activate community in a meaningful way and do the kind of events that they would like to do. And then, of course, secondarily, but perhaps primarily, sponsors. Hello, sponsors in Portland. This is going to give you a baseline for understanding the kind of capital you need to allocate to organizations that are trying to put on these kind of events. So I want to give you ROI kind of numbers of look, we had, 400 people show up and it cost this much kind of thing. So that you can say, when you're looking at marketing budgets or sponsorship or whatever it is, you can say, we want to be engaged in these types of events throughout the year. We need to allocate this much budget to be part of the community. So I think it's helpful on both sides. I hope it helps kind of bridge some gaps in knowledge, or at least helps everyone in the community have a better understanding of what it takes to pull this kind of thing off. And then, perhaps tertiary, just because I like saying that word. I won't say quadrary. I probably won't go there. But tertiary, I think the other part is might give a slight appreciation to attendees and community members about why often organizations need to charge a ticket price to pull off these events. So in the past, Portland has been largely resistant to paying ticket prices for events. They've been very used to getting things for free. It's a very giving and generous community that is willing to put these things on for free or figure out other ways to pay for them. But I just also want to give you, as a event attendee who is benefiting from the work of these organizations or these event organizers or these programming folks, that maybe that helps you justify the ticket price a little bit more. And it's like, well, okay, I'm willing to kick in $10, $25 to make sure that this event comes off really well. And so I'm hoping by being transparent about it that it helps the whole community. That's all I'm saying. So stay tuned for more detail on that, and I'll make sure you're informed about it and know all the things and stuff and the logistics, so that we all have a better understanding of, in 2025, when a dozen eggs cost $3,000, what it takes to pull off an event in the Portland startup community. One of the challenges with events in Portland is, in the heyday of startup activity in Portland and tech and open source activity, I would gauge that as like maybe the decade between 2009 and 2019. Like, that was really a very up and to the right, happy and heady time. There were any number of events going on in Portland, something happening every night, 5 things happening every single night. But that problem started to reveal itself very, very early on in this community, like 2006, 2007, somewhere around there. And so a group of folks in the open source community decided that they could provide a solution to that issue, or at least a way to help mitigate that issue, by creating an aggregated calendar for the community, where it was like, if it didn't matter if you were posting, I don't even know which Meetup and Eventbrite might not even have existed back then, but like Upcoming did. And, these days there's Luma and Sketch and like all kinds of other ways, Cvent, all kinds of other ways of organizing events and getting RSVPs and all that kind of stuff. Not to mention like Facebook events and LinkedIn events and all that jazz. But they really created a way of saying, we're going to make it easy for you to add your event, no matter where it's hosted or ticketed, add your event to a kind of aggregated tech calendar for Portland. And that project became Calligator. And Calligator was used religiously for a very long time throughout that period, and is super valuable to the community, not only from I want to go to an event, like what's going on this week, like hugely valuable from that regard, but from an event organizer standpoint, also a great resource to show up and be like, oh, what day of the week or time of the day should I be programming events if I want the best chance of having people show up? So hugely valuable, no denying that. Calligator has fallen into a bit of disrepair just in terms of keeping up with technology. It's an open source project. It works fine. Like, it works. There's some bugs here and there, but it works. And we've continued to use it, but each and every day it falls a little bit further and further behind. And so now folks who've been inspired by Calligator and respect the activity of this kind of aggregated calendar have developed a new resource. It's very early, very MVP. That's just a PDX tech calendar. And it's an open source project. So there's a GitHub repo that you can join to pay attention to it. I will link up the PDX tech calendar link so that you can kind of poke around and see what you like there and what you don't. But at this point, it's less about please add your events to this calendar and more about please provide feedback on this format, how it works, how it looks, what you would like to see, what features you really need, what stuff you loved about Calligator that you would like to see kind of recreated in this new format. And if you're a Ruby developer or Rails, I'm not sure exactly what the kids are calling it these days, but that's the language that's being built in. So if you have that expertise, you are encouraged to pile on there as well. Again, really promising, really nice to see the community just, like one of the things I love about the Portland startup community and Portland at large, which has been largely absent for the past few years, is the willingness to roll up your sleeves and not just complain or not just ask for somebody to do something, but to say, I'm going to fix this problem. I've waited, I've tried to be collaborative, but this isn't being fixed. So I'm just going to go and build something of my own. And I always love that kind of activity. So really happy to see this kind of new thinking about an aggregated tech calendar for the community, something that we can all kind of adopt and use consistently to help everyone in the community. And, for me personally, one of the ways I used Calligator most often was to import other events that I found that I wasn't even the organizer for. I just wanted them on the calendar. And so just a way to kind of save, share, source that information for other people, I think will be hugely valuable to the community. So if that's of interest to you, you can either join the Portland Startup Slack and there's a conversation going there, or you can jump on the GitHub repo and there will be conversations and code slinging happening there. But whatever the case, I would just love to have you involved in this next iteration of a calendar for the entire Portland tech community to really help us have a better understanding of all the things that are happening here and all the ways we can engage with the amazing people in our community. Whew, that became a really long episode. I apologize. I was just really excited about the news. I mean, it kind of got slow throughout the holidays. Not really, though. I mean, there was still news and exciting stuff happening, but you hit this week, you hit Epiphany, and suddenly, boom, all this news came out. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff I'm excited about, really happy about the momentum going into 2025, really psyched about the Portland startup community and excited to get the chance to run into you at some of these events or even, maybe online on the Portland Startup Slack or whatever. But whatever the case, please hang in there. Please take care of yourself. Don't go too hard at the beginning of the year. You gotta ease into it. There's re-entry burn stuff. So take it easy, ease into 2025. And until we get the chance to chat again, please keep up the good work.